Interviews. All right, we talked about interviewing with MDOC. Let's move on to interviews for other criminal justice jobs. Maybe you want to be a law enforcement officer. I think I've got a few people here that want to go into police work, right? So let's talk about physical appearance. I mean, actually, the interview starts when you walk in the door, and they're going to do a stress interview too. We're famous for this in criminal justice. So typically what they've got is a big conference table here, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 brassy people. You know, all of their stars and bars with all their uniforms and everything. It's very intimidating. And then there's you. And they'll have a little chair. Let me grab this chair here. They'll have a little chair back here somewhere. Yeah. And so there they are with all their stars and bars, and there's your little chair. And you're just kind of hanging out there in the open. So they're going to watch how you walk in the door. What are you wearing first? Are you dressed for success? Have you got that suit and tie on? You got the jacket on, the whole 9 yards? Do it. Do it. So they're going to look at clothes. Then they're going to look at your grooming. Are you properly groomed? Do you meet workplace standards? So, for most police departments, for example, they require no facial hair. Or maybe you can have a mustache, but other than that, clean shaven. So again, you want to demonstrate to them that you understand workplace standards. So you're going to want to make your face match those standards. Hair looks good. You're clean, you're tidy. Your suit, your outfit's pressed, not all wrinkly, doesn't look like you slept in it last night. Body language. Now we all know that interviews are intimidating. They are. And this one we are especially designing it to be. It's a stress interview. We're going to put you on the hot seat. We want to see how you handle stress. Because if you can't handle stress in an interview, why would we think that you can handle stress on the job? You got some bad guy screaming at you about how he's going to rip off your head and shit down your neck. Well, that's pretty stressful. And that's real life. So if you can't handle the stress of an interview, why would we hire you? So we're going to turn up the heat. We're going to make it real uncomfortable for you. So we're looking at your body language. When you walk in, do you walk in looking confident? Head up, shoulders back, making eye contact with people. Good posture. Don't walk in like a beaten down dog, for Pete's sake. Don't walk in all slumpy. Good posture, stand up straight. Now, men are better at it than women, but pay attention to that body language, pay attention to that posture. If you come out here and you sit in between classes out in Eyeball Alley here and watch people go by, you will be astounded at how many people use really passive and submissive body language and how many people just have horrible posture. Women especially. Women are the worst at it. Not all of them, but a lot of them, they'll have their shoulders rounded in and their heads down. Right, like they're trying to disappear. Yeah, don't be that person, okay? Walk in like you know what time it is. Head up, shoulders back, make good eye contact with people. Good posture. Now, there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. And don't be that cocky person. I'm all that. I'm the best thing there is that ever happened here. Yeah, don't do that. And then there's nervousness. We all know that you're nervous. We expect that you're going to be nervous. Again, you know, keep it quiet. But there's a fine line between regular nervousness and just insecurity, too. We expect that you're going to be nervous, but never let them see you sweat, so you got your jacket on. So when your deodorant quits, nobody can tell. If you get a chance before you shake hands, wipe your hand because it's going to be all sweaty and clammy. Right? Or even rub it on your pants before you go in and warm up your hand a little bit. Yeah, because that sweaty, clammy, you know, cold means that you're nervous. So that's just a little trick. Warm up your hand. Right, now it's not all nasty. What else? Nerves. Oh, body habits, right? Body language. Keep your body language quiet. Our bodies, if we're not cognizant of what we're doing, will betray us. They will betray our emotions. They will bleed our feelings for everybody else to read. And you don't want to do that if you're going to be a police officer or a corrections officer, do you? You want to bleed that out. You don't want anybody to see what you're really feeling inside, because half of the time it's terror. So be careful here. Let me see. Yeah, let me do this. So when you sit down, here's the chair back here. You know, in a law enforcement interview, you might actually even want to wait until they tell you to sit. You know, so you can come up in front of the chair and stand and just wait for them to tell you, please be seated. Right. So this shows that you understand your place in the pecking order and that you can take orders. When you sit down, don't make yourself at home. Keep it tight. Sit up straight. Towards the other edge of the chair a little bit. Nice and straight. And feet on the floor. And this is important, feet on the floor. Because most people, when they sit down, especially women, one of the first things they do is they cross their legs. And you might say, well, what's wrong with that? There's nothing unprofessional about it. No, there isn't. It looks great. But here's what's going to happen because you're nervous. Your body is going to have a mind of its own. And that foot is going to take off. And it's going to be going about 100 miles an hour, and you are not even going to know what's happening. There you go, boom, boom, boom. So what is your body screaming? I'm terrified right now. Look at me, I'm really scared. This is really scaring the hell out of me up. Guys too, you know, you do the same thing, that foot goes. And you won't even know what's happening. Put your fingers together, hands together, in your lap. Because you know what else people do? They play with stuff. They'll pull on their earlobe, they'll play with an earring. I've seen women with long hair actually chew on their hair and not know they're doing it because they're nervous. Okay. Or they drum their fingers or they're, you know, twiddling their thumbs. Right there, in your lap, feet on the floor, sit up straight. And that way, you're bulletproof. Right? You can't do anything stupid with your hands. Right here in your lap, sit up straight. Because they're watching for that. They're watching for cues about nervousness. So you can practice this. You can start practicing this right now. If you pay attention in most classrooms, whatever your next class is, look around at your classmates and watch their body language. And probably a good third of those students are doing something weird with their body language. Tapping a foot, swinging a leg, you know, playing with their fingers, chewing on their hair. Yeah, just look around. So you can practice right now as college students keeping your body language quiet. Not letting people see what's going on in here. The only thing that they should see is what you want them to see. Don't let your body betray you. And they're looking for that. Interview, do's and don'ts. You guys have these on your handouts, but we're going to go over them. Move that so I don't trip over and kill myself. Interview do's. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to lose the overcoat. Right? It's Michigan. Most of the year it's cool enough to have an overcoat on. You're coming into an interview. You don't want to wear the overcoat in the interview. If there is a place where you can leave it or hang it up before you go into the actual interview, then do so. If there is not, take it off and drape it over the back of your chair when you sit down. Why? Multiple reasons. First off, if you've got your coat on, it looks like you can't wait to get out of there. How quick can I get out of here? Now that might be what you're feeling, but we're not going to show that. Secondly, you've got your good clothes on. You want people to see those nice clothes that you spent the money on. We want to see how sharp you look. And third, your deodorant has already quit, folks. You're already pitted out. You've already got the sweat running down the front and the back. And then you're going to leave your overcoat on? You're going to turn into a freaking furnace. So lose the overcoat. Ditch that sucker. Put it someplace. Smile. I'm happy to be here. I'm scared crapless, but I'm happy to be here. Greet. How are you, sir? How are you, ma'am? Give them a handshake. Right? So this is where you want to warm up that hand beforehand if you get a chance. Give them a handshake and address them by title, even if you know them. Maybe you're interviewing for a job in your hometown. Maybe you did an internship there and you know them a little more personally. Forget about it. This is formal. Forget that you ever met that person before and treat them very formally. Address them by title. Captain Smith, it's good to meet you, sir. Lieutenant Jones, it's a pleasure. Keep it formal. Keep it professional. Establish a rapport. It's a little harder to do in a stress interview, but not impossible. Make a connection with the people that are doing the interviewing. Break the ice a little bit. Much easier to do on a one-on-one in an office. So maybe you're applying to a juvenile care facility or something, right? And you're sitting there with the supervisor in her office. Well, you can look around the office and see if there's any commonality. So maybe you see that she has, a Detroit Tigers baseball cup. And you can say, oh, I see that you have a Detroit Tigers baseball cup. I'm a big fan of the Tigers myself. Oh, is that right? She says. And next thing you know, you're talking a little baseball, kicking it for a few minutes informally. Stress level comes down. You've established some rapport, like that. Yeah, it's a little easier to do in a one-on-one situation, but it's not impossible to do in a stress interview. I interviewed for a sergeant's position a number of years back, which I got and declined. I wound up going to grad school instead. Yeah, and they would have put me on second shift as a sergeant, and then I wouldn't have been able to go to grad school and get my master's degree. So I declined the promotion. But I learned a lot. So it's a stress interview. And I've got 3 or 4 people from different departments. I had an undersheriff, I had a captain, I had, a lieutenant from the city police. I had a couple other people like that. Very intimidating. And I saw the lieutenant from the city police, and I remembered that he was in charge of the city dive team. And I was on the county dive team. So I said, Lieutenant Cardinal, isn't it so that you're the head of the city police dive team? And he said, well, yes, I am. Pleased that I knew his name. I said, well, sir, I'm on the county dive team. Well, is that right? He says. Well, the next thing you know, he and I are talking about dragging up dead bodies and stuff like that. Fun stuff. But we've made a rapport, and then for the remainder of that interview, he was my good guy. So everybody else is haranguing on me, and he's my good guy. He's my safe guy. Because I made that rapport. And it really helps a lot to break the ice, too. Sit up straight, we talked about that. Feet on the floor, hands in the lap. Keep your body language quiet. Keep control of yourself. Start practicing today. Keep practicing every day. Sell yourself. One-shot deal here. First impression. One shot. Sell yourself. Tell them why you would be a good fit for the job that they're trying to fill. Ask questions. Now, there may be questions that you have prepared in advance, or sometimes during the course of the interview, questions will arise. And it's okay to ask those questions. Now, there's a saying, there's no such thing as a stupid question. That's a lie. There are stupid questions. And a stupid question for you to ask right now would be a question that you should know the answer to from having gone to their website. Because if you ask that question, that means you didn't look at their website and you don't know anything about their agency, and why the hell do we want to hire you? You didn't even care enough to do a little basic homework. So don't ask anything that you should know already. Have a closing statement. Now, you're going to do this in advance. You're going to prepare this in advance. How do you want to bring things to a close? Summarize your strengths and ask for the job. Now, there are good ways to do this, and there are bad ways to do this. You know, please, please, I have starving children. I need this job. Okay, don't do that. But as you're shaking hands with everybody, you can say, I'm really excited for the day when I can work for your agency. I really look forward to wearing your uniform. You know, something like that. That lets them know that you really want that job. Because if you say something like that, isn't that a pretty good indicator? I would be proud to wear this agency's uniform. Ask for the job. Smile. Thank them for their time. And give them a good handshake again. Right? Good handshake. Don't break anybody's fingers. And don't do that limp dish rag thing. That's just gross. If you don't know how to handshake, practice. Interview don'ts. Don't do these things. Do not. Do not sit until you're told. Right? We're in criminal justice. Following orders, obeying instructions. So, you know, just stand in front of the chair and wait till they tell you to sit. Do not bring any beverages in or have anything in your mouth. Spit out the mint, spit out the gum. In fact, I'm going to tell you, don't even drink any coffee before an interview, because then you get that nasty coffee dragon breath. If they offer you water, it's probably okay to accept that, but I wouldn't take anything else. You know, your throat might get a little dry when you're talking. Water's probably okay. Do not play with yourself. Do not play with objects. Do not engage in nervous habits. I've seen people rock. Don't do that. Keep your hands to yourself, in your lap. All right, this is important. Do not be negative or badmouth your old job or your old boss. Don't do it. I don't care if your previous boss was Satan and he poked you in the ass 3 times a day with a pitchfork. I don't care. You find a way to soft pedal this. You find a way to smooth this over. Because here's what happens. If you start trashing the job, your former coworkers, your former boss, you look like a malcontent. You look like a shit stirrer. You look like a drama king or drama queen, and we don't want you. So you find a nice way to soft pedal that. Do not interrupt or argue. Now, in a criminal justice interview, they might actually bait you into an argument. It didn't happen. They try to draw you into something controversial. Could even be sports. You know, maybe you say, oh, Detroit Tigers, you know, great, I'm a fan. Well, I hate them, but my sister-in-law gave me that mug. Oh, just leave it alone. Don't go there. Sometimes they'll try to bait you into stuff just to see if you'll take the bait. Don't do it. Don't drop names. Unless you are absolutely dead sure that that person whose name you're dropping is in good standing in the community, don't drop any names. And the criminal justice field is tightly knit. Even if we don't know each other directly, we know of each other by reputation. So you go in there and you say, well, I know so-and-so. I had somebody do that to me one time. I know so-and-so. Well, I'm really sorry for you, because that guy's a real shithead. So just be sure before you drop a name that it's a good name to drop. Right? You might want to ask around, check that out a little bit. Might seem like a good name to drop, and maybe not. And if there's any doubt in your mind, don't do it. Ask questions. Do not ask questions that you should know from the website, or ask questions about your pay, your sick time, or your vacation. If you ask questions that you should know already, it tells us that you didn't do your homework. You're asking questions in an interview about pay. Usually they'll tell you about that later. Sick time, vacation time, well hell, you haven't even started working yet and you're already asking for time off? Why do we want to hire you? Usually they'll tell you all of that stuff later on. So no worries there. Do not beg for the job. Please, please, I have starving children. Don't beg for the job. Just let them know that you're interested in it. Background questions. Anticipate the questions you will be asked and formulate the answers to them in advance. This is one of the most critical things that you can do to be successful in an interview. I would even recommend buying a book on interviewing. Now most of them are related to, the business community, but that's okay because there's still a lot of good stuff in there. Read it and do what it says. So think of every single stinking thing they could possibly ask you and have an answer ready. So that way you don't get any curveballs. Because if you're unprepared for something, then you're and you're stuttering, and then blast your confidence, and next thing you know, it's downhill, right? Now, a little trick that I learned from an interviewing book, Save My Bacon on my Delta interview here. It's on a phone interview. Phone interviews are awful because you don't have any body language. You're not getting any feedback on what you're saying. Right? Because, 85–90% of human communication is nonverbal body language. So when you're talking to somebody face to face, you can read their body language and see how they're receiving your information. But if you're on a phone, you can't do that. Oh, that's just bad. So I'm on a phone interview, and they asked me a question that I had not anticipated. I can't even remember what it was, but it was a curveball. So rather than stutter and stumble, I took the advice that I learned reading an interview book. And it said, if you're asked a question that you don't know the answer to, you say, "That's a great question. Can we come back to that?" And the worst they can say is no. And you've already bought yourself a few seconds to have the back of your brain working on the answer to that question. And if they say yes, which they did, then you've bought yourself even more time so that the back of your brain can be working on the answer to that question. So when they return to the question, now you've got a decent answer. Save my bacon. Tell us about yourself. You're almost guaranteed to get that one. Tell us about yourself. So think about the important things that you want to tell that are related to the job. Okay, we don't need to know what you got for Christmas in second grade. Why do you want this job? They're going to ask you that. Why do you want to work for this agency? I can guarantee you they're going to ask you that. So have an answer. Now for Department of Corrections, that's easy. Well, it's a great civil service job. Okay, yeah, we know that. That's why we pay so well. For policing, this is all stuff that you're going to have to dig down and think about. I want to protect and serve. I want to help people. It's okay to be a Pollyanna in an interview. We expect that. Here's one that almost always catches people flat-footed in law enforcement and some other fields. I'm the chief of police, and I'm interviewing Jacob here for a job. I say, "All right, son, tell me about yourself," and he tells me about himself. "Why do you want this job?" He tells me about the job. I say, "Well, now you're telling me that you would like to work for me and my police agency, Bay City Police Department. What can you tell me about my agency, the agency that you tell me that you desire to work for? What can you tell me?" And do you know most applicants have not gone to the website, and they don't know the answer to that, and they go, next. Anytime you apply for a job, you should go to their website and crawl all over it. You should know everything that's on that website, inside, outside, and upside down. So that when they ask you that question, it's a when, you can come right back and go, well, boom, 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 boom. And Here's the other half of that. So maybe you pull that off. Well, Jacob, that's really great. I'm excited that you know so much about the agency that you desire to work for. Now, son, what can you tell me about the community that you want to police? What can you tell me about the city of Bay City? Oh, well, I didn't do that homework. So wherever it is you're desiring to work, you should go and research that community as well. So that when they ask that question, you're ready for it. Handle any indiscretions in your past that may have come up. And so maybe you got a minor in possession when you were 17 years old or something. Maybe you got a speeding ticket. Okay. Little black marks, little minor youthful indiscretions. They're not going to ask you any question about your past like this that they don't know the answer to already. So the best strategy here is just to own it. And that's a mark of maturity. Yes, I did that. Yes, I was caught speeding. I was going 10 miles over the speed limit. I'm ashamed. And you can see that I have not done it since. I mean, that's important. So if you did something silly in younger years and in past days, don't do it again. So then you can say, and you can see that I have not done this since. But own it. Yes, I did that. I had a little bit of a lead foot when I was younger, and I don't know what else to say except it was thoughtless and immature. I was only thinking about myself and my needs, and I wasn't thinking about anybody else's safety on the road. I did that. Yeah. All right then. Right? They're mature. They own what they did. They accept the consequences for their actions. They accept responsibility for what they've done. This is called adulting. Right? We expect that from you. So own it. Answering difficult questions. These are those curveballs they're going to try to throw you. Be ready for them. Describe your 3 greatest strengths. Now they might only ask you for one, but it's a good thing to have a couple more in your back pocket just in case. And you're the only one that can answer this question. What is your greatest weakness? They'll probably ask you that one too if they're asking for strengths. They might ask for a strength and a weakness. But be ready for it. And be careful on your weakness, okay? Don't do anything that's going to shoot yourself in the foot. I have seen people do this stuff in interviews. Actually, in criminal justice interviews, the last time we did a search for a new professor, we got Joshua George. We lucked out. But we had some applicants, what is your greatest weakness? We actually had a guy say, well, my temper, I've got a really bad temper. And it was a phone interview. So we're all just kind of looking at each other. Did he really say that? And we had some other guy that said something else that was really ridiculous. It was, like that. Like, oh, hell no, we're done. We're done here. So don't say stuff like that. Again, think of a way to soft pedal it. So I was interviewing for a supervisor position in a juvenile facility just before I got the job here at Delta. I didn't get the job because they wound up hiring an internal candidate, but that was okay. It worked out for me really well because here I am. But I was told at the end of the interview that I gave the best interview the interviewer had ever seen because I read up on what to do. So she said, what is your greatest strength? I said, that's easy, my tenacity. I stick to it. I'm goal-oriented. I make up my mind about something, and I see it through to the end. No matter what happens, no matter what obstacles, what adversity is in the way, I see it through to the end. Wow, that's a great strength. What's your greatest weakness? I said, that's easy, my tenacity. I said, sometimes I just don't know when to quit. Now, for me, that's true. For me, my tenacity is a double-edged sword, and it cuts both ways, so I have to be mindful of that. But you got to come up with your own stuff, right? You got to figure out what your greatest strength is, your greatest weakness is, and make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot with your weakness. Well, I'm a horrible writer. Yeah, I don't write very well at all. In criminal justice, now don't do that. What do you like most or least about yourself? Again, this is something that you can only answer for yourself. You've got to do a little deep soul searching here. But they might throw you that curveball. And a lot of people haven't actually thought about this stuff before. So they walk into an interview and they get blindsided. And they're, oh, Deer in the headlights thing. Who are your heroes? I put this one on your assignment for a reason. You don't get to say, I don't have any heroes. That ain't going to fly in an interview. A lot of people haven't thought about this, and they go, my dad's my hero. Or my granddad's my hero. And we go, oh, isn't that cute? Now, can you tell me somebody that's your hero that you're not related to? And a lot of people haven't thought about that. So think about it. Have a couple of them. And good reasons why they're your hero. Because you never know. This is one of those that they'll pull out of their back pocket here and surprise you with. And if you're not ready for it, Here's another one. Give an example. You told us earlier that you handle stress well, that you can work well under stressful conditions. Great. Give us an example. Give us an example of when you've been under pressure. So have that example ready. Put your money where your mouth is. I work great under stress. Okay, tell me about it. Give me an example of when you did that. Why should we consider you for this position? Why should we hire you? This is the honk your horn. Keep going until they tell you to shut up. And make sure that it's qualifiable and quantifiable, not just, well, I'm a great person. I'm nice. I'm cool. No. Quantifiable, qualifiable, something that you can actually say, yes, well, I have this certification, I have this training, I have this education, I've had these experiences. Like that. And I was an athlete all the way through high school, so I'm excellent with team playing and teamwork. Back to this again. Never, ever, 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 never badmouth the boss, the job, or the company. I cannot emphasize this enough. More people torpedo themselves here. So why are you leaving your job? Why did you leave your last job? Why are you leaving your current job? Oh, well, I worked for Satan, and he stabbed me in the ass 3 times a day with a pitchfork. No. Yep. So for me, a quick fix for this would be, well, the job that I'm working in now, or the job that I last worked in, wasn't related to my field of study, and I'm trying to find something that is. So for me, when I jumped from food service into security, even though I was taking a pay cut, I could pass it off that way. The reason I was really leaving is my boss was Satan, and he stabbed me 3 times a day with a pitchfork. It was a horrible job. But I'm not going to say that. What would you change about that job? Gosh, I would have liked more responsibility. Or it was a small company and there weren't a lot of opportunities for promotion. So I'm hoping I can find that here. It makes it look like you want to better yourself, and you couldn't. So it's a good reason to leave, isn't it? What would you change about that job? Or, why are you leaving? So you asked about aspects of the job that you might not like. So for me, I started out as a table busser. Yep. And I bussed tables. This is, I wasn't 18 years old, so they could pay me less than minimum wage at the time. So I'm making like nothing. And they would work, this was the way the laws were written back then, they could work you up to 5 hours without giving you a break if you were under 18. So they'd work you right up to 5 hours and then send you home. So for 5 hours, I am doing very physical work. Bending, lifting, leaning, wiping, and at the end of that day, my back would be crying, my shoulders, my neck. I mean, it was a very physical job, and I did it for extended periods of time. So for me, well, I'm leaving my job because, right? You can do something like that. Did you ever have a disagreement with your boss? Why or why not? Well, if you've worked any job very long, you probably have. So yeah, sure, everybody disagrees sometimes. But I came to see her way of thinking. So again, figure out how to, soft pedal that. Because if your boss was Satan, you probably had lots of disagreements with him. Tell us about a job that you've had and didn't like. So for me, it was table busting. That one's hands down. But because I didn't like that job, whenever I had a few extra minutes, I would be nosy and I would ask somebody else to show me their job. And so after just a few months, I knew how to do other things. And I didn't have to bust tables anymore. It was very nice. But again, be careful. Don't say, well, my coworkers were all jerks. Or my boss, my boss was really mean. No, don't do that. Heads up, they are going to check your social media. If you're going into law enforcement, you're going to fill out a release form that says, you can check all of this stuff, and I will disclose all of this stuff to you. So, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, whatever it is you've got, they're going to look at. I know of law enforcement interviews where they've actually passed a laptop computer to the applicant and said, pull up your Facebook account, or pull up your whatever account.
No, for most of that, though, because it is on social media, can't they just go and look at it anyway?
Well, it depends on your privacy settings. If you're smart and you've locked everything down, they can't see it. So you've got to open it up. Yeah. I'm locked down pretty tight, unless you're my friend. So yeah, we're going to look. And you just told us in the interview that you hardly drink at all. And there is a picture of you last Saturday with a fifth of tequila, limbo dancing. People put stupid stuff on social media sometimes. Don't put stupid stuff on social media. If you have stupid stuff on your social media, delete it now. If it's really stupid, if it's irreparably stupid, just shut down the whole damn account and start a new one. Of course, they might ask about that. I see you had an account before. What happened there? I have a former student who put up a lot of really inappropriate but hilariously funny stuff on his Facebook account. And I wondered about that when he was doing it. I wondered to myself, I wonder if this is really a very good idea. I mean, some of it was funny, but I couldn't even like it. You know what I'm saying? I thought, well, I hope this doesn't hurt him when he goes to look for a job. Ran into him in the hall because I hadn't seen him on Facebook for a while. Well, I shut my account down because, I was worried about the background check. I don't know, it might be too late for that. Yeah, they're going to check. Okay, just be advised. So if you're going to put anything stupid up, take it down. And don't do it again. After the interview, decide if you want the job. You might not. You might have heard some things in that interview. You thought you wanted the job going into it, and now after all you've heard, you're like, no, I don't think this is for me. And that's okay. And so go home and think about it. Do you want the job? That's what happened with my sergeant's promotion. I went home after the interview and I thought about it. And I made a list of pros and cons. And, the cons outweighed the pros. And one of those was continuing my education. And that was important to me. So that, I won't be able to continue my education if I take this promotion. So, I went back and told them, sorry, but I guess I don't want this. If you do want the job, and this is important, if you do want the job, write a thank you letter. Not an email. A formal, typewritten thank you letter. Why? For a couple of reasons. First off, you're probably going to be the only one that does it. Do you know how few people write thank you letters nowadays? Nobody does it. You want to be on somebody's radar, write them a thank you letter. Yep. Hardly anybody does it. When I applied for the job here at Delta, it was a nationwide search. We had people from all over the country applying for this job. I wanted it really bad. So I did all my homework. I knew everything there was to know about Delta College and its website. After every interview, after the phone interview, after the teaching demonstration that I did, and after all of the interviews, I wrote thank you letters. I found everybody's name out and the correct spelling, because nothing will torpedo you faster than spelling somebody's name wrong. You don't like it when your name gets spelled wrong. find out the correct spelling, and write them a thank you letter. And you're on their radar because guess what? Nobody else does. And guess what? I was the only one that did. Was that what got me hired? No, because I'm good. But I'm going to tell you, it didn't hurt anything. Write a thank you letter. So bing, you're on the radar. 2, the second thing is you are going to use that thank you letter as an opportunity, again, to reiterate why they should hire you. Thank you so much, Captain Smith, for your time, blah, blah, blah. And then, just keep it tight, short paragraph. I want you to know how much I'm really looking forward for your agency, and, this is what I'm bringing to the table for you. I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Just a 2 or 3 paragraph little letter, thank you. Reiterate why they should hire you, wrap it up. And you can do that with a thank you letter. It works really well. So use the opportunity to reiterate your qualifications. Let them know you want to work there. And if you do all of the stuff that I just told you to do in this lecture, the odds of you getting your job are very, very high.